Then on Wednesday, outside of the U.S. Supreme Court, more than 100 former law clerks, they lined the stairs to pay respect to Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It was very moving to see that.
It was such a powerful image.
Right
there are some of the images right there. About 120 clerks. Among them was our next guest, Fordham University law professor Aaron Saiger. He joins us now to share a few of his memories of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Take us to that moment outside of the Supreme Court the other day. I mean, the images were just so powerful to see all of you law clerks there lining up, the impact she had on your lives and so many. What was it like to be in that moment?
It is such a devastating loss, and it really felt very powerful. Many of us came from very far away, and it was extraordinary to see the entire group assemble. We used to assemble with the justice every 5 years or so, and those were generally happy occasions. And this one was very difficult, of course, made more complicated by the public health precautions.
Right.
I love hearing how you just said you assembled every 5 years. It's a wonderful way to stay in touch. You worked with Justice Ginsburg. Give us an insight into what you experienced. What was she like?
Well, she's an extremely demanding boss, is the first thing that people always say. Many of us were reminiscing that it was not entirely clear that she needed us terribly much, because she was so extraordinarily on top of all of the work that she always did. But she was at the same time a person who let her law clerks every year into her life and into the life of her family, and has remained part of our families going forward. I've had a lot of conversations over the past few days with people who have turned to her after they ended their time in chambers in times of both happiness and sorrow, and who have described just so warmly the support that they have gotten. I've talked to several law clerks who clerked for other justices who found in Justice Ginsburg enormous support in their times of trouble too.
I can't even imagine the impact she had on you and your career and your life, and now the impact that relays to your students, because you are a law professor at Fordham University. What were you able to bring to your students after the experiences you shared with Ruth Bader Ginsburg? And I understand she also came to your class to speak to those students.
Yeah.
She was at the school in 2016. She spoke to the entire student body, or at least to as much of it as we could fit in our largest room. That was an extraordinary event. It was after the point at which she had become a popular icon, and the students were just enormously excited about it. But from my point of view, the most important thing about it was that it let them see behind sort of the popular face of the justice to the professional face. And we had a long and substantive conversation about the work of the court and about the directions that American law was taking. And it was incredibly useful for the students. I think in some ways, the most important thing I wanted them to see was that keeping their eye on the substance was really the job of the legal profession, and what the justice was trying to teach us all.
Which gets me back to something that you said earlier, and I want to dig deeper. You said she was extremely demanding. Give us some examples of what you mean by that. And is there one particular moment where you will always remember the special connection that you two had?
Of all of the ways in which the justice was demanding, probably the most important was her devotion to the craft of writing well. As you know, the justices of the Supreme Court communicate with the public in writing. They're an unusual government body in that way. All of their opinions come with reasons, right? This is something that many of the justices have spoken about. There's a film that plays in the basement of the court when it used to be open to the public, where Justice Breyer said that this is what makes courts unique, is that we explain ourselves. And the justice was determined to explain herself as perfectly, as clearly, as elegantly, and as concisely as possible. So the quest to find fat in the writing, things that could be cut out without loss of meaning, was ever present. One always feared that the justice would find a way to make things shorter, clearer, terser, and better, and she nearly always did. And all of us remember the experience of having things that we had written come back with her corrections. The goal was always to not see a sea of red, and it was almost never realized.
Yeah, I think as journalists we can appreciate that too. Was it George Washington who said, "I would have written a shorter letter had I had more time"? Yeah. It takes a lot of time to be concise. And
were you ever intimidated?
I would say I was intimidated most of the time. there were moments where I didn't feel intimidated, but not that many. It's extraordinary to have a boss like that. I've had only one other experience in my career where I really felt like I was not just constantly pushed, but regularly inspired by a boss. And two other times in my career. So I've been very lucky. But no, it really is. The fear of making a mistake was ever present. I will be honest with you that that was on my mind a lot. That I did not want to. I wanted to be sure that I did not give her anything that would not meet the standard that she set for us.
I think you made her proud, and of course,
Absolutely.
I'm sure this is a tough time for you as well, because there's a lot of memories flowing through, and a lot of times where you just can sit and think about the history that you were a part of to be there as a law clerk for RBG.
Professor Saiger, thank you so much for your time, your analysis this morning, and really just your overall thoughts. I mean, it's such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, and all of us clerks have been so moved by the outpouring of affection and respect for the justice across the country. It's meant a lot to us.